Imagine driving down the street and somebody all of a sudden aggressively cuts you off. Adrenaline rushes and you're on the verge of blowing up. Or maybe this, imagine one of your kids is throwing a tantrum and you're this close to blowing up. What if there was a strategy that you can use to diffuse that situation and prevent the actual blow up? Stay tuned. We're coming up. We're going to talk about this. Hello, I'm Fernando Sosa, and you are watching Mindset of Steel live show. In this show, our purpose is to help you crush your limiting beliefs, punch fear in the face, and take massive action in your personal life and your business by focusing on the 80% psychology and 20% strategy. If this is your first time here watching either live or on the replay, welcome. If you're watching on YouTube, consider subscribing and clicking on the notification icon so you get notified when we go live. If you also want to get signed up to our VIP mailing list, go to mindsetofsteel.com, and we send out notifications and text messages when we go live off schedule, when there's changes in topics or we have special guests. You have basically more bonuses by signing up to the list. So I'm fired up and excited. This is episode number 4 of our weekly show, and we have a special guest as a treat. And today's episode is very special because, like I explained to you before, I mean, if there's a way to prevent a blow up, wouldn't you want to try it out? Well, for me as a parent, I'm always looking for ways to help myself basically be a better parent and not blow up with my kids, because that happens. And recently I learned about a strategy from an event that I attended with Tony Robbins, and I applied it and with one of my kids, and I was amazed that it was a simple strategy that I think people already are doing it, but they don't really realize that it's actual technique and it has a name. Like, for example, one of my kids one day woke up with a tantrum, and there was nothing that could stop her. She was crying, complaining about something, and nothing. And then we were going to be late for school, and I was about to blow up. And then all of a sudden I applied the strategy where I basically distracted her and interrupted that behavior by just making a silly face and singing Baby Shark. I just sang Baby Shark, and she was like, what's going on? And all of a sudden she got distracted, and I stopped her from continuing, and the blow up didn't happen. So that's just a basic example. Now, before we get into the meat of this topic and introduce my special guest, I'm going to share with you a special a comedy clip, one small clip. It's a 5-minute clip by this comedian called Bob Newhart. Bob Newhart, very famous comedian from, I think, the 60s, 70s, or maybe the 80s. And this skit, I think, relates a little bit to what we're talking about today, and it's very, very funny. So let me share this with you, and we'll talk about this next.
Dr. Switzer?
Yes, come in. I'm just washing my hands.
I'm Catherine Bigman. Janet Carlisle referred me. Yes, that's me. Should I lay down?
Oh, no, don't do that anymore. Just have tea. And let me tell you a bit about our billing. I charge $5 for the first 5 minutes, and then absolutely nothing after that.
That sounds great. Too good to be true, as a matter of fact.
Well, I can almost guarantee you that our session won't last for 5 minutes. Now, we don't do any insurance billing, so you would either have to pay in cash or by check.
Wow, okay.
And I don't make changes.
All right.
And go.
Go.
Well, tell me about the problem that you wish to address.
Oh, okay. Well, I have this fear of being buried alive in a box. I start thinking about being buried alive and I begin to panic.
Has anyone ever tried to bury you alive in a box?
No, but truly thinking about it does make my life horrible. I mean, I can't go through tunnels or be in an elevator or in a house, anything boxy.
So what you're saying is you're claustrophobic.
Yes, that's it.
All right, well, let's go, Catherine. I'm going to say 2 words to you right now. I want you to listen to them very, very carefully. Then I want you to take them out of the office with you and incorporate them into your life.
Well, shall I write them down?
Well, if it makes you comfortable, it's just 2 words. We find most people can remember them.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay, here they are.
Stop it!
I'm sorry?
Stop it!
Stop it?
Yes, S-T-O-P, new word, I-T.
So what are you saying?
You know, it's funny. I say 2 simple words, and I cannot tell you the amount of people who say exactly the same thing you're saying. I mean, this is not Yiddish, Catherine. This is English. Stop it.
So I should just stop it.
There you go. I mean, you don't want to go through life being scared of being buried alive in a box, do you? I mean, that sounds frightening.
It is.
Then stop it.
I can't. I mean, it's been with me since childhood.
No. We don't go there. Just stop.
So I should just stop being afraid of being buried alive in a box.
You got it. Good go. Well, it's only been 3 minutes, so that will be $3.
Actually, I only have a 5, so.
Well, I don't make change.
Then I guess I'll take the full 5 minutes.
Fine. All right. Well, what other problems would you like to address?
I'm bulimic. I stick my fingers down my throat.
Stop it! What are you, nut of some kind? Don't do that.
But I'm compelled to. My mom used to call me fatty.
No, we don't go there.
But I've been having this dream.
No, we don't go there either.
But my horoscope did say.
We definitely don't go there. Just stop it. What else?
Well, I have self-destructive relationships with men.
Stop it! You want to be with a man, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, then stop it. Don't be such a big baby.
I wash my hands a lot.
That's all right.
It is?
I wash my hands all the time. There's a lot of germs out there. Yeah, don't worry about that one.
I'm afraid to drive.
Well, stop it! How are you going to get around? Get in the car and drive, you kook.
Stop it! You stop it! You stop it!
What's the problem, Kathy?
I don't like this. I don't like this therapy at all. You're just telling me to stop it.
And you don't like that?
No, I don't.
So you think we're moving too fast? Is that it?
Yes. Yes, I do.
All right, then let me give you 10 words that I think will clear everything up for you. You want to get a pad and a pencil for this one?
Right.
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, here are the 10 words.
Stop it or I'll bury you alive in a box!
All right. That was a a comedy, right? This is not to undermine mental health and therapy and all that, which is good and necessary, but this is an extreme example of a comedy. And how from the very beginning of the clip, I don't know if you remember, but there was a pattern. The woman, right from the beginning, she asked if she needed to sit down, right? She had this pattern already. He was like, no, we don't do that here. And every time she talked about a problem, he's like, just cut it out, stop it, right? It was I think it was very funny, very on point. But so anyway, that's just a comedy. So now let's get into serious stuff. I want to introduce you to my special guest. I'm very excited to have him here. He's a certified NLP Master Practitioner. His name is Mohammed Sheikh, and he's going to explain a bit deeper. He's going to explain a bit deeper pattern interrupts and give you other tips to help you cope with blow up situations. So since 2013, Mohammed has been helping individuals and organizations break through emotional and mental blocks by teaching them how to use their unconscious mind and how to activate their heart to produce more resourceful and desired states and behaviors. So while many people talk about the importance of having access to resourceful internal states, such as confidence, assertiveness, gratitude, love, etc., few actually teach how to assess such states. His approach is all about teaching you the methodology, the step-by-step recipe, if you will, to achieving the desired states and results. So welcome, Mohammed. Thank you very much for being here.
Hey, Fernando. It's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on the show. How's it going?
Doing good. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate you being here. You are, where are you right now? In what part of the world?
Yeah, so I'm in Mississauga, which is about a half an hour drive from Toronto, Ontario. Most people know Toronto in Canada. Right? But I'm actually part of the suburbs, so right. Awesome. Yeah, same time zone as you.
Same time zone. Okay, that's a good thing. So Mohammed and me, we actually met virtually at a Tony Robbins event, and he stood out as the NLP expert, and that's where we connected. And I thought about him with this topic. I'm like, hey, Mohammed is the guy. So Mohammed, tell me a little bit about what is NLP? What does this have to do with NLP? What's
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, right from a high level, what my role and my work and really the last 10 years of my life, it's all about just helping people. I mean, even my client from earlier today, he came with this pattern, and that's what it always is. It's a pattern for him, his pattern was just being very quick to get into a state of judging and being very judgmental and critical. And he's a founder of an organization, right? So he's got all this staff that report to him, and he's recognizing that this pattern of behavior, where the intention behind it is good, he just expects good results and good performance. But as far as the actual result he gets from the way he's coming across, it's actually not productive at all. So we worked on that. My life's, the last 10 years has 15 years really is when I got all into NLP. I'm also a certified hypnotist. I do a lot of hypnosis work just to really help people break their patterns, right? What NLP really is what Richard Bandler and John Grinder, the guys who co-founded, actually there's a third, Frank Puslik, sorry. I was going to say Steve Wozniak, but he's like the Steve Wozniak of Apple, where, he got shoved out. So Frank Puslik is the third. But what they really created was a set of tools to model human behavior and to model human excellence. And then those tools got applied in a variety of different ways. They started off, Richard Bandler was actually a student of psychology. So he, went to school to become a therapist. Didn't end up being that way, but the first application was actually in therapy. Then they went into business and performance. We know Tony Robbins, he takes all into like the whole peak performance angle, where he teaches, everything he knows is really NLP. So they created all of these tools. What you're talking about, the pattern interrupt, is actually one of the framings and one of the tools that, came out of the models that Bandler and Grinder really created. And it's based upon a very simple concept that actually comes from cybernetics, like human cybernetics, right? Which is Tote, right? Even, we learned this even in school as a programmer. I know you have an IT background, and I did a little bit of IT in myself, right? So there's this concept called Tote, which is the acronym stands for test, operate, test, exit. And what that really means is that we have all of these unconscious programs. Is how we do everything. We don't really consciously, open the door or grab a drink of water, right? So if you go up to a door, it's like, oh, what is this? Looks like a door. How do I open this door? Let me run the program opening a door. So I reach out and grab the handle. I turn the handle. That's test, operate, right? And then I test, did it work? Is the door open? Yes, it is. Now I can exit, right? It's a very logical system, methodology that occurs. So we have all of these patterns, right? And we don't realize, there's actually even getting angry. You gave the example of having road rage. That's actually a pattern that is just being executed, right? And what ends up happening is when you do something to interrupt that pattern, our unconscious kind of opens up, and it's very open to suggestions. In fact, one of the guys that Bandler and Richard Bandler and John Grinder modeled was a fellow by the name of Dr. Milton Erickson, who was a clinical psychiatrist, but he was also one of the world's most famous hypnotists that ever lived. And he had this induction called the Handshake Induction, where he would go to shake someone's hands, but you'd end up in trance. You just end up completely zoned out, right? And people would be afraid to shake his hand. And really what it is he would reach out to shake your hand. And, like if I was actually in front of you, if I put my hand out, the natural inclination you have is to put your hand out as well. But I interrupt that pattern by, instead of shaking your hand, just grabbing your wrist and say something like, hey, focus all of the attention on the lines of your hands as you close your eyes now. Because I interrupted that pattern, there's something that's called a PGO spike, which is kind of like a shock to our nervous system. It doesn't actually have to be like, bam or loud or anything like that, but just interrupting that pattern, it opens us up to suggestions, right? Which is what explains how, if you change the pattern for your children, you change their focus, you change your attention. I mean, it works really well with kids. They could be so upset about something, and I will say something, oh my God, is that a penguin in the window? And suddenly the kids will look, what? Where? Right?
I do that with my daughter. I say, is that a unicorn?
Yeah, exactly, right? And even though they know that it's impossible, it interrupts the pattern, and now they're open. And that's the main point that I want to highlight here is, interrupting the pattern in itself is not actually doing anything. Because if you don't take over and take them to a more productive path, they'll simply revert back to finishing the program, right? And so, as you said, I think we're already probably doing this intuitively, but we may not necessarily know that this is actually a thing. It's actually a technique. So, you interrupt the pattern, and then you take over and you give a, command. It's like, hey, it's actually okay to feel better now, isn't it? Which is a very much of a direct command, telling them how they should feel. Works really great with kids, but you know what? It actually works just as great with adults as well. Yeah. So there's an example of this, right? There's a lot of moving parts when we're talking about strategies and techniques. And a lot of this stuff, really the work is done well before we even find ourselves in a destructive or a self-sabotage pattern. But yeah, just kind of like a high level, what questions do you have?
Yeah. Well, how so focusing on children, can see this can be applied, I guess, in schools with teachers, right? I can see a classroom full of rowdy kids, and some teachers may be able to use this technique and they may not know about it. Is that right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, right. I actually have a soft spot for teachers and schools, so I actually do pro bono trainings for schools and teachers. COVID's kind of hampered that, but the last training I did for a school locally here, I gave them a number of these techniques, and what often ends up happening is we don't enter the pattern, we resist their pattern. Here's a classic example of this, right? Student says to the teacher, wow, this is a lot of work, right? And what the mistake that a teacher probably will make, or perhaps will make, it depends on, how good they are or not, but I've seen this more often, is that the teacher will respond back with, actually, no, this is not a lot of work, right? And so now the objective isn't it about does the student finish their work? It actually becomes, and it's changed now into a conversation of, is it a lot of work or is it not a lot of work, right? And so they are going head on, right? The student's like, this is too much work, and the teacher's like, no, it's not a lot of work, right? Whereas the real objective should be, we need to get the work done, right? And a very simple way is I actually said, you never go against the pattern, you actually enter the pattern, right? So you go in the same direction so that you can, lead it somewhere else. So rather than saying, no, actually, let's pretend the name is John, right? No, Johnny, that's not a lot of work. I will say, you're right. It is a lot of work, right? Okay. You're right. It is a lot of work, and not but, because but negates everything. Language is very powerful. But negates everything before it. So I'll say, you're right, Johnny. It is a lot of work. And I know you're up to the challenge. Why don't we work together and get this done? Right? Or I know, Johnny, it is a lot of work. And this is now what's expected of you. Or, and, this. So I've entered. I haven't gone against it.
Right. I can see that.
I've acknowledged, I've accepted. So, his defenses go down. And as soon as I say, and, it now leads him towards the actual objective. Like, why are we even arguing about whether it is or not a lot of work? It doesn't really matter. The real objective is the kid needs to do his work.
Right.
So that's one example.
And so in life, like in practical terms, I'm trying to see how somebody can use this. Like we talked about school, we talk about parents and kids, the driving example. What about like in business or at work? How can somebody, because I think it's very powerful, this kind of, and this could be an introduction to further learning about many other things that they can learn, I'm sure. But if they can take one actionable item and say one example of what they can do tonight or tomorrow, what can you suggest that somebody does as an interrupt?
Yeah. And so, the thing is, there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to this. So when clients come to me, what I'm doing is I'm literally going right into their unconscious along with them. And together, we are, to kind of use the phrase loosely, we're rewiring their patterns. We're rewiring their behaviors, right? So it's not just, a technique by itself is that, but there's usually like, what is the intention behind it, right? Because behind this is from NLP, one of the presuppositions of NLP is behind every behavior, there's always a positive intention, right? I mean, people yell because they feel they're not heard. People hit or punch because they feel threatened, right? People run away or freeze because they feel trapped or scared, right? So there's always, even a behavior as punching someone or hitting someone, there is a positive intention behind it for themselves. It's really out of self-protection, right? So we have to acknowledge and, learn that. But as far as, a very simple, practical thing that we can take away, and begin to implement in our lives is an understanding. And I'm going to give you both an understanding and a technique as well. An understanding that the work actually begins well before we find ourselves in a self-destructive pattern.
Right. Okay. Got that.
Okay? That self-awareness, like just like the client who came to me today, you know, he had a self-awareness. He recognized, hey, I'm not getting the results I want. I'm getting feedback from both professional, you know, my colleagues, but also at you know, in my own personal life, right? That I'm doing this thing. And then third, he became aware and he caught himself, right? And the most important thing is like, okay, I need to change this. And so he went and, you know, he hired an expert to work with him. So that's really critical, that we have to have that self-awareness that, okay, I have to catch myself. And
Right.
then what we can begin to do is, if we've now identified that, hey, I do have this pattern which needs to be changed. As an example, if someone recognizes they get road rage, just as an example, or, you know, whenever their kid goofs up or messes up, you know, the pattern is to just, you know, yell at them. So we've become aware, we've acknowledged this. Well, we can wake up in the morning, right? And we can actually rehearse in our mind how we wish to be, right? And so if I was to do this really, really quickly, I know you want, you know, we only have a few minutes here, but if I was to actually, Fernando, ask you, and if anyone's, you know, watching this on the replay and everything, go ahead, let's all do this together. Go ahead and close your eyes, Fernando.
Okay.
Right. And let's just pretend, you know, just in the interest of time, let's pretend what we're working on is, you gave the example of, you know, kid doing something silly. Rather than responding with like, you know, what's wrong with you, anger, anything like that, you want to respond with compassion and love and understanding, right? So the first step is to access a moment in your life in which you had compassion or love in any context, right? So take a moment. Let me know with a nod of your head when you've got an experience, a memory in which you felt a lot of love or compassion for anything, any context. You got something? Okay, go ahead. Take a deep breath now. And as you exhale, imagine you're floating through time into that memory as if it's actually happening right now. And notice what the world looks like through these eyes. See the pictures. See the colors, everything that you see that's in detail and in focus. Notice what the world sounds like through these ears. Any dialogue, perhaps, the pitch and tone, the volume, the clarity of it all, what the ears hear in this experience. And notice as you see the pictures and hear the sounds, how you feel. Feel that compassion, that love, that understanding. Words are metaphor, whatever that feeling is, really feel that inside yourself. Notice where you hold that emotion. Is it a feeling that's all over your body, or perhaps it lives in a particular spot? And really live in this feeling. And now from here, take all of this and just bring it into a future. It hasn't happened yet, but a future instance when, you know, your child does something that previously would have angered you. But bring in this love, this compassion, and notice yourself and how you behave now. Notice the words you say now. Notice the pitch and tone and what's different in your voice now. And notice the feeling of how this whole conversation with you and your child is going. Notice how they respond to you. And allow yourself to rehearse this over again, right from the beginning all the way to the end. And when you've done that, go ahead and rehearse it again, just in your mind. Feel it in your heart. And allow your unconscious now to rehearse that over and over again, all at the speed of thought. A few more times. And when it's done that, you can go ahead. When your unconscious knows that now you've practiced this and you're ready to actually put this into action, only when that's done, you can open your eyes, take as much time as you need.
Got that.
Got that. Powerful, eh?
Got that. Yep.
Yeah. I love the expression on your face right now.
I'm going to watch this again and do this again and again. This was good.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. And you don't really need my voice. I mean, you have the recording. You can, and everyone's just watching. You have the recording. I have a few of these similar recordings on my website. You guys are more than, welcome to help yourselves to that. But the point is, when we rehearse this, we're literally training our mind. It's neuroplasticity. It's basic neuroscience. We are changing the pattern of how we wish to show up so that when the trigger, which is really, child doing something that would normally upset us, happens, rather than it triggering the old pattern, we've now, practiced it and rehearsed this so much. I like to call it creating future memories, which is a bit of an oxymoron. But we've rehearsed this so much now that this new pattern takes over, and we just do that, right?
It's a tool in your toolbox that you have ready, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And really, it's about doing it first thing in the morning, before it even happens. That's the best time.
Yeah.
Because when we're in it, when we get emotionally compromised, our brain literally shuts off. The emotions send a very different neurological signal to the brain, and we have something called cortical inhibition. So our brain literally shuts off. We don't have the opportunity to do any techniques. The work happens before because it's completely unconscious.
Wow, good stuff. Good stuff. Wow, thank you very much for that exercise, Mohammed. That was something. I'm sure if try that for you watching on the replay or live, or comment below. Tell me what's your experience with this exercise. I'm interested to hearing, and Mohammed as well.
I'm interested in knowing too, because I went like 3 times the speed. I usually do it a lot slower.
Yeah.
So I'm curious.
Yeah. So Mohammed, how can somebody reach you? I put on, that's your website there, and that's a good contact.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best way, www.coachthemind.ca. Guys, when you go to that website, on the navigation bar at the top, it actually says free online resources. I've got classes there for you, a 30-minute class on self-regulation, a class on NLP, introductions to NLP. There was a mastermind talk. There's other tools there for you as well. Like, leverage it. I put it out there for the community to benefit. And if you have any questions or, are interested in working with me even, the old adage is like, the barber needs to go to someone else to get a haircut, right? So sometimes we just need to work with someone. I'm very accessible, right? I mean, I'm not Tony Robbins. I'm not, what is it, $1 million an hour to work with him, right? So I'm pretty accessible. Reach out to me. There's a contact form there. You can book an appointment, or just find me on Facebook, right?
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mohammed. Again, this was very, very informative, very educational. And I'm sure everybody watching now and on the replay, they'll benefit from this. So reach out to Mohammed and to learn more. This was just a taste of what's more to come. So just to recap, if you're just joining us, we went over an NLP technique called pattern interrupt. Mohammed is a certified master NLP practitioner, and his information is on the screen there. You want to reach him, watching the replay, what you missed. And thank you very much for being here. I appreciate you. If you sign up to the list or subscribe, you won't miss the future episodes. The next episode coming up next week, we're going to talk about celery juicing secrets. That's celery juicing was blew up a few years ago. I've been trying celery juicing for the past 3 months. And we have some secrets to share and the science behind it. So stay tuned for that. Follow us, subscribe on YouTube, and like this video. If you found any value in this, please go ahead and like. Thank you for your support. And we'll see you on the next episode of Mindset of Steel Live Show. Take care, Mohammed. Thank you again for being here.
Thanks so much, Fernando. Take care.